The next image we have to work on is a really cool image. The model has textured hair, and from a extraction standpoint, it looks really complex, but actually we've got really good separation between the foreground and background. We're just gonna do a little bit of messing around with channels to get that extraction, and it should be pretty straightforward just looking at it initially. The thing that could get a little complicated is fringing. I know fringing is gonna be happening in there. Now what that is when you have a really complex hair that you're pulling using a channel to make a mask. And I know from experience that the background color is going to come through in that mask, and we have to find a way to remove that. And we're going to use a really straightforward, easy tool to remove all that. But in addition to that, we're going to use a really cool new way of visualizing that, seeing what color you want to make the fringing and where you want to sample from and where you want to paint. So I'm going to show you how to do all this in a really quick, easy workflow. Great. Now this is a really cool shot by my buddy Adam Levy, and you can see that we've got a really complex hair situation that we need to pull from the seamless. He wants me to put it on a new single color background, and he was also moving really fast in the studio and moving all around the model because they were just trying to get a ton of shots, and her hair kind of clips at the top of the frame and goes over the seamless fold there too, so I'll have to deal with that. But first things first, I already created a clipping path all around the silhouette where there are hard edges of the model, and once again clipped inside the hair because I know I'm going to make that mask from a channel pull. So let's take a look what's in the channels. Red, green, and blue. Blue I don't like so much. Red I kind of like over blue. If you look at the quality in the hair here, red has just more density and more detail. Green has the most contrast though, so I usually try to look for, I always look for at least one channel, but often I'll look for a secondary one to see if I can somehow augment the base one with some kind of blend or something. I'll try that. I'm going to duplicate the green. And the green's good. I'm going to see if I can blend the red into it. Apply image, make sure the green's selected and that the eyeball icon is on, otherwise it won't apply correctly. So in this you're applying green to green because green's in the source, which is kind of like a calculation basically. I want to blend in, see if I can get something from red. Overlay. Overlay might be a little strong. It's doing a good job though. Let me see. Soft light or overlay? That's the question. I think probably soft light because I'm still getting a little bit more separation up here. I'm going to click OK. My path's still active. I'm going to turn that off so we're not distracted. So there's before, there's after. Path is turning on repeatedly. Oh, because when I undo, it's turning my path back on. Now, just check out the contrast between before the green, after the blend, before the green, after the blend. That's a good improvement. I'll take it. So let's bring up a curve. And I will add a point out here. I don't know if I'm going to bring it all the way to white. We'll just see. It's all the way up at 40. I want to bring it just to where like these flyaways start cutting off. I mean, I'm still going to lose some of those flyaways. That's okay. And then I'm going to bring the black point up. . 'Cause, 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 that looks pretty good. I mean, pay attention. You know, this is what's important. You can always watch me just how far I go. I'm a little bit more careful when it comes to how far I push the curve, because once again, you know, some people just use the curve or levels to do the whole operation, but I think of that as the first step. It's the global step, and then you go into the local adjustments using your mask adjustment tools, dodge and burn. And also the paintbrush, regular old paintbrush. Now take a look at this information here. We could kind of dodge that, or burn that, excuse me, because I want to make this darker. See what happens. Once it gets down to these kind of crispy parts here, it can't burn that anymore because those are pure white. I'll show you a trick, especially if you're burning on something that has a lot of sharp grain. This is a really good trick to remember. You just need to blur that stuff. And you can do this either by like running a Gaussian blur on the entire image, or you could just do this yourself. See, now blurring those is averaging the pixels around it, so they're turning gray. So now that they're gray, this tool is able to work effectively. Just a cool thing to remember. But right now, I don't really want to burn this stuff. I'm actually going to just paint with black. It's going to be faster for me. Now the trick here is we want to eliminate all of these curl highlight pops, but we don't want to paint over areas that are like knockouts of the hair, right? Because we want to keep that detail. So it's good to keep going back and forth between the composite RGB and the channel that you pulled so that you can see what you're painting into, like right there. I could probably get rid of that, but this stuff I kind of want to keep. So you really want to just paint into the opaque masses of hair. Let's see where we're at right there. Yeah, those are knockouts, so I'm not going to go much further north on that. This isn't super crucial, but you just don't want to destroy anything that later you wish you had kept. So we're not so much worried about in here in the hand where it crosses over, because we're not trying to knock that out. So we know now we want to keep this stuff in this area here because that's knockout detail. Notice I'm just painting along the perimeter, just to be careful. And now I can be super loose with the rest of it. Could even select this out and just fill it with black, but I'm just going to do this. That stuff's pretty crazy down there. Okay. Okay, now a little bit of dodging. Make sure we're set to highlights. I'm gonna set the exposure way down and just do some light brushing. Sometimes that seems to help me preserve details a touch more. Notice in here, there's still a lot of gray that I want to get out. You know, it's interesting in this, in more complex curls like this, it's almost like the flyaways make more sense, that they're much more a part of the beauty of the hair edge, I think. And so, you know, we tend to not go in and try to reduce tons and tons of flyaways in textured hair like this, because it's part of the structure of the hair. It's not a mistake. It's in styling, it's oftentimes meant to be there. So be mindful of not over manipulating the natural state and structure of hair. So I'm a little worried about down here because it looks like I kind of cranked that a little bit too hard. I wonder if I can bring a little bit of that back. There's really good separation on the grain. I'm going to go back into my channels and pull a new one from the grain. And I'm going to do a new exposure for this stuff. Where I keep that detail. Now, how am I going to get that on that other green channel? Well, let's see. I'm just going to invert it. I'm going to burn a little bit around it to make sure I got pure black. Just lost that a bit. Looks pretty good. I'm going to load that as a selection. Go back to this channel, hide it. Remember to take off that selection after we're done, because I always forget that. You will too. And just paint in with black. I'm going to paint at a lower opacity because I don't want to hit it that hard. Questions you're always having to answer, especially in the beginning of dealing with a lot of channel operations, channel work, is I may have information on one channel that I really like. How am I going to get it on to the next? And sometimes it's just as simple as making that channel into a mask that you then use to paint in on the other channel, because apply image, while it works really well for a global blend, I can't really target that effectively to one area in the image. So this is looking a lot better. I want to see what the detail like over here looks like too. I think there's a little more detail in this green that I just made that I had a lighter touch on. So I'm gonna put some of that back. Yeah, that's nicer. It gives me more to work with. Command D to drop my selection. I'm gonna go in here and try to deal with, at this mask level, some of this seamless up here. I'm on my brush, I'm just gonna paint this out. You see now, like after working, you know, so much in the masks that, in the channels, that the channels palette, whereas we used to think, you know, lots of times like, oh, there's just voodoo witchcraft in the channels, like I don't mess with that stuff. All it is really, if you want to think about it in this way, is just a scratch pad for making masks. It's just like your sketchbook, you know, it's like where you do all your rough sketches to figure out, you know, kind of make tools for working in the actual file itself. You know, lots of time I think of this just like paths as a big library of tools that I may need to come back to. So thinking of it in that in those terms makes it a lot less like esoteric and a lot more just like another workspace where you prep stuff and make plans for the future. being a little loosey-goosey with some. I think that's okay though. The trick is going to be getting this out of these areas, but I think I got a plan. I'm going to be still pretty loose here, and I just want to get that out the way. I'm going to go maybe to right there. All right, I'm losing some hair detail. That's okay. I'm going to deal with it. I don't know exactly how I'm going to deal with it. I mean, I have some ideas, but you know, this is the thing. I haven't planned it out completely yet, but after working this much in channels, I know that I can deal with that. And especially with all the practice that I've had hand painting hair, it shouldn't be a problem. I want that on dodge because I want to clean up a little bit of the gray that's in that area. Cool, I think that's my mask. I may have to do a little bit more adjustments to it, but I'm done here. I'm gonna take it to mask status and deal with any more cleanup on the mask itself. Plus, we can always return to this because it's here in our library. So let's just remind ourselves what, you know, I want to remind myself what I did to make this, which was, what was it? Green, red, blended into green, soft, light. So if I need to do that again, I can. Here's where all that prep work comes together. So I'm going to activate the path as a selection, add that as a mask. Right now I'm going to bring up the solid color fill, so I have something back there so she's not just floating. And this is the fun part where I get to paint in the hair that I spent so much time prepping, and it goes super fast and easy. Really nice. So you can already see the fringing coming in. It's, you know, it's that green background. Now I have my brush set to 0. I mean, set to 100, which you activate by just hitting 0 on the keypad. Beautiful, super easy. It's really satisfying painting in hair when you've spent the time to make a really good mask. It almost feels effortless, and you know it should feel hard, but it doesn't. So you can kick your feet up and just paint. Another thing to recognize is that the more you paint in there, the more dense the mask is going to get. So if you want to darken a little more, paint a couple times over the same area, and it'll start to fill out a little bit more. Oh, I don't want to go out there because that was, we can clean that up once I kill my selection. Pretty cool though, right? I mean, that was really complex hair, and that popped off the background pretty easily. This is a really ideal situation for an extraction, but there are some problems, some big problems that we have to fix. Luckily, that's fairly easy to do with the technique I'm going to show you next. So kill the selection, Command D, and what I want to do is bring up a color map. And I'll show you how to make one. Bring up a new layer inside that color map, hit Shift F5 to fill, that's the shortcut, 50% gray, boom. Set that to luminosity. Weird, huh? 50% gray cancels out all the value and leaves the color when set to luminosity mode. you might have accidentally done this sometime and just thought, oh, what a cool effect, but it's actually super useful. So I'm going to bring a hue saturation up above it because I really want to see what this is all about. I can't really see it right now. I'm going to crank that saturation way up. Oh, wow. Look, the fringing jumps right out. Because what this color map does is it takes whatever color is in the image and it just isolates it and boosts it. So it's just another way of visualizing the data within the file. Pretty cool. So let's group our model. I'm going to drag the mask up to the layer group level because I'm going to bring up a new layer in here. I'm just going to call it defringe and bring up my brush. I'm going to set that defringe to color because we're not even dealing with any luminosity or value, lightness and darkness stuff right now. All we care about is removing that color fringe. So I'm going to set it to color. Now, this also makes it easy to decide the color that we want this stuff to be. Is it closer in range to the purple lavender or the blue? The blue exists in the darker areas, and the lavender exists in the lighter areas of the image. So this stuff is going to be lighter. We want to match it to this. What this is also kind of telling us is that there is a different hue. It looks pretty slight when you're looking at this normally, but there's actually a different hue, subtle hue in the darker areas of the image and the lighter areas of the image. That's a huge key to always remember. We've got a little mask problem here. I'm not going to fix that just yet. I'm going to come back to messing with my mask. Turn the color map back on. Turn on the brush. I'm going to set it to like 40%. I'm going to sample maybe something like that. We'll see how it goes. This is very forgiving. I'm going to set it even lower. I'm going to set it to like 10, see what happens. That's a little bit better. So without even having to use much mental capacity whatsoever, we just know we want to get rid of all that green. And before I go even any further so you can see the totally cool results here, turn off the color map. It's so subtle once you turn that stuff off. Zooming out, it's a lot easier to catch. These areas that just have a tiny bit of green in them probably don't matter at all because we're boosting it so much with that hue saturation. I mean, it's a subtle thing once you look at it, but it's a very crucial thing to be able to know how to identify and how to fix, especially in these channel pulls. Cool, so this is looking pretty nice. I've still got some loose ends to tie up. I need to deal with this chunk mess here where it's going over the seamless. Man, I could try to mess with that, but once again, it's not that I'm lazy. I just like doing things in a fast, efficient manner. And so I'm going to, once again, make the edge I want, not the one that I'm given. What I'm doing is I'm just painting this out on the mask because I just don't want it to exist. Should probably just done that in the beginning. So now that I've made that cut, I need to rebuild that area of hair. We know how to paint, you know, I've been hand painting a lot. My hand's tired. I want to try something a little bit different here. I'm going to see if I can patch some hair from someplace else. That'll be even faster than me hand painting that edge. So I'm going to show you my plan of attack to get that done super quickly and easily. Let's check it out. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to sample a color from this area of the hair here. And I want to fill the entire image with that because I don't want to be distracted by any details in the hair. Real quickly, I got a mask problem here that I'm going to fix really quick because I don't want to overlap with it. Just going to paint that out. All cleaned up. Now I want to look for another area of hair that looks cool. Maybe over here. And I am going to set a selection from my mask. I have the lasso tool. I'm going to set it to the regular setting. Hold down Alt and Shift. And I just want to grab this selection right here. And I'm going to move that over here. And I want to see if I can get this to patch in here. So select, modify. Oh no, select transform selection, excuse me. That needs to rotate. And see, I can compress this a little bit because I don't want it to clip the top of the frame so much anymore. Just want it to cover that area. Let's see how that works. Oh, I'm going to take it a little bit easier on the edge here. That looks pretty cool. It's a little bit softer than the rest, so I'm going to see if I can just sharpen it up a touch. That could also easily look like hair that is a little bit further back and out of focus. That's fine. And so we need to defringe a little bit more in here. Make sure our selection's dropped. Oops. That needs to be really low. I've actually got this at like 10% now, so really pay attention to those values of your opacity. Don't want to overdo it. So we got the color sorted out. Problem is, back here we've still got this line. So bring up another layer and just clone in some hair detail in these areas, current and below. Just in the areas where that seamless lives. Let's get that out of the way. So I'm calling that layer fill in because I may want to do a little bit more. And and this stuff is still a little bit crispy overall, I'm going to give that a bit of blur. Push it back. Remember, I'm blurring on the mask. I hit Command H to make sure, I don't have a selection up. I don't. That looks more natural, a little bit less crispy on the edges. A little bit more naturally out of focus. All right, so I'm happy at this point. I didn't have to hand paint this hair. I was able to get a good channel pull from what was in there. That's awesome, and I love the image too. It's a great shot. So I think one big takeaway from this is, even though I had an image that was pretty perfect for a channel pull, there was still a lot of work that I had to do. It's important to remember it just doesn't pop out immediately like that. If you have a good situation for a channel pull, there's always going to be these issues of fringing, color contamination. And one thing I really liked about this is being able to use these tools to visualize what that is, to make it much more apparent so you don't have to do so much guesswork. And fringing is going to happen in any environment if you're extracting something, whether that's say trees from a landscape photograph or something like that. These tools totally work in that situation too. Anything that is not a big opaque shape, sometimes even big opaque shapes on the edges, they're going to have fringing. Now you know exactly how to amp that up so you can see what it is, choose the color to eliminate it with. Another thing to start to think about is patching. I really quickly and kind of roughly patched part of that mask, and it turned out pretty good. Thinking in terms of that, if you can save time by grabbing information from another area of an image, or even now, which is maybe new to us, is pulling that from a mask. So keep that in mind too.